Hello, everybody. I'm Charlie Tolhurst. Welcome to Charlie Tolhurst Show for tonight, the 20th of August. We're already speeding through August now, and we have got plenty of news to talk about tonight. I'm joined by lay party supporter Zach Chambers around all latest news this week. Hello, Zach.
Hi, Charlie. Hello, mate.
Now, we're going to start off with the main agenda of tonight, and this week has been an awful week for knife crime and crime in general across the UK, particularly in London. Earlier this week, we saw an 87-year-old man being stabbed in London, and Thomas O'Halloran was in his mobility scooter in West London when a 44-year-old man just literally came out of nowhere and stabbed him to death. My thoughts are with Thomas O'Halloran right now. This was the guy who attempted this crime has just committed a wicked act against humanity by doing this, and has killed, in my view, a very innocent elderly man. And crime now must be stopped. Now, we saw earlier this week Sadiq Khan blaming the heat wave for the increase in crime to say, are we heading for that, mate? Because that isn't a complete lie. And I have to say, we know crime is on the rise right now. This year alone, I think we've had getting on for nearly 78, or basically nearly a record number of crimes being committed across this country, particularly in London alone. Where is the mayor? We need him now. Zach, what do you make to that fatal stabbing of Thomas O'Halloran earlier this week?
Yeah, it was a pretty awful and quite shocking stabbing that happened in London this week in Greenford, where this unprovoked and quite frankly bizarre and horrifying stabbing took place. I mean, why would you go around stabbing 87-year-olds who are probably lovely and quite generous in scooters, for goodness sake? Just go around your day job, doing whatever you need to do, and go around the street. And then you got people going around stabbing 87-year-olds. I mean, that's unbelievable. It's just shocking. Thomas O'Halloran. That was the one who was that was the one who stabbed to death. Very innocent man. Did a lot of good causes actually. He was attacked whilst on the way to a busk, according to a friend. He was come back from Perivale to play. He's a coordination, make some money for his family, and then this happens. Obviously, it's just a good cause, and he can't raise money for that good cause now because he's been stabbed to death by an idiot. He was known to be for busking outside Greenford Station. Was also said to be raising money for Ukraine, which good causes that this person is doing, Charlie. And it's just like, wow. I mean, it's unbelievable how this has even happened, and how it's been allowed to happen at all. It's a shocking, awful incident as well. Now, I believe the person who stabbed him has actually been dealt with. There's been a man that's been arrested.
It's a 44-year-old man, we can gather.
It's a 44-year-old man. What is a 44-year-old doing with a knife? Come on. I mean, you expect teenagers to be doing that sort of thing, but a 44-year-old? I mean, how on earth is this 44-year-old having the idea of stabbing people in the first place? I mean, he's chosen a pretty obvious city to do it because we know London's been home to quite a lot of stabbings over the last few years. But yeah, it's just the culture of idiocy that is happening, and the fuggishness that's going on is just unprovoked and just unaffordable, really, to be fair. It's not good enough. It needs to stop, Charlie, and this all needs to stop. I mean, police obviously need to get control of this in some way. And as far as the Sadiq Khan blaming the heat, I think he's a bit wrong on this. Yeah, the heat does affect your behaviour. You get more aggressive people, but the heat can't be an excuse for idiots going around the street stabbing people. It just really isn't, Charlie, and it's just so not on what happened. The thoughts with the family, the 87-year-old. I mean, being stabbed at that age with probably a fragile body, it's just uncalled for. How on earth could you get away and even think about doing that sort of thing?
God, look at what happened last year to David Amos, getting the same kind of treatment, being another, I think it was like a Islamist, someone, I think it was like Islamist extremist stabbing to David Amos. I mean, we don't even know if it's the same person. It could be from the same background. It might be someone different. We don't know, but there's clearly got to be a look at. We're going to have to look at law and order, and that was something that was actually debated, and we'll come on to that in a minute at the GB News hustings, the Tory leadership hustings, as well. Law and order being debated heavily, as well. I mean, we've got to take a look at the police forces in this country who are spending most of their time on Twitter being political, coming out now and actually saying we need police to do their proper job and arrest these people immediately for what they're doing. Because unfortunately, Zach, I have to say this, the police's job is to police this country, and I feel like we need more officers on the streets to make them safer.
Absolutely. The Conservatives will claim that they've got 13,000 new officers on the street already. I mean, that's sort of like UK-wide. But, with these sorts of stabbings going on, it doesn't feel like 13,000 have been added, Charlie. It feels like 3 have been added. I mean, if you think about it, these events still happen. Why is it still happening? Why is people still going around stabbing things? Why are there not enough police observing what's happening? There should be at least a police officer observing every street, well, most streets, and a certain area in this country that should be observing what is going on across the country, across London, across major cities and rural areas. And we don't see, it feels like we don't see them enough. If we had more police around actually on the jobs, patrolling areas, then we probably would see a lot less crimes. But even with the 13,000 that the Conservatives are claiming to add, I'm not trying to make the party political, but I'm just making the point here that we're not. It doesn't feel like 13,000 have been added. It feels like 3, as I said. It does not feel like it. We don't see the effects. Crime's going up, convictions are going down. There is a problem here, and it just feels like the police are once again on with their resources are not getting the best out that they probably need, Charlie, which is not good enough and is unnecessarily causing crime across the UK.
I know, Zach, and I was just going to say, I'm going to just getting some statistics up here for you guys. Trends in police recorded crime. Police recorded crime in England and Wales in the year ending March 2022 returned to an exceeded pre-coronavirus pandemic levels. The 6.3 million crimes recorded was 4% higher compared with the year ending March 2020, which was 6.1 million offences were given out. So, yeah, it's clear law and order is a big issue at the moment. I think this has to be debated in Parliament, and I think we need tougher laws on this, really. The fact that I even heard earlier this week that some of these people are not getting prison for this, or basically not giving harsher prison sentences, is just crazy. We need to look at restructuring police forces in this country and giving police greater power, just in general arresting these thugs, putting them away. It is horrible. So that's our view. That's the view this week from the 87-year-old stabbing as well. I'm going to turn to the Tory leadership hustings now here on the GB News, hosted by Alistair Stewart on Friday, because there were so many discussions with members of the audience and also Alistair Stewart asking questions about several things, law and order being one of them. But also this week, there have been reports of NHS ambulance waits being at record levels. I can tell you for one thing, guys, there was someone earlier this week had to wait up to 15 hours for an ambulance after having a stroke. I mean, this is absolutely unacceptable. And I'm just going to share with you another story in a minute about a 90-year-old mother who had to wait 40 hours for one. It's clear, Zach, to me that the NHS ambulance waiting times are a key issue for the Conservative Party leadership candidates right now.
Yeah, and it's quite something, Charlie. I mean, it's 15 hours to wait for a stroke in the middle of summer. This is just the middle of summer. Our hospitals are crumbling and literally being decimated before our eyes. We're not, I don't feel like we focus enough on this, that as a whole of the country, we don't feel focused enough on this, that our hospitals are crumbling, our services are dying, our GP appointments are longer, and it's a hellhole for the staff, the hospital workers. I mean, you think COVID was bad, Charlie? Look at what it is now. It is a demolition, quite frankly, a demolition of a snail hole of servicing, and ambulance waiting times being huge. And as I said, this is the middle of summer, Charlie. If this is the middle of summer, I can't even dare to imagine what it's going to be like in the winter. We're not even in the. We're not even through. We're not even in that stage yet. We're not even through the cold season. We're in the hot season, where normally waiting times, hospital times, will be down. It is at record levels, Charlie. It is at unbearable records that nobody could imagine, and it's causing a lot of problems. It's causing so much problems for ordinary people who want to use the service. Just so many. Oh, I just can't, Charlie. It is absolutely awful at the moment. It's unthinkable that there are so many problems that are happening to the service that people can't really use it or afford to use it. And these waiting times are not going to help people want to be able to get the services that they feel like they want. It's hideous, absolutely hideous, and a hellhole for everyone to use. And as I said, we're not even through the halfway through. We're basically in the middle of summer, Charlie. We're not even felt the effects of what it's going to be like potentially in the winter. It's going to be awful, and urgent action, I think, is going to be needed, Charlie.
Both candidates didn't really seem to. I don't know if they're much of a plan on this, but I'll go over this now. A 90-year-old woman waited 40 hours for an ambulance after a serious fall. Stephen Sims said his mother from Cornwall fell on Sunday evening and an ambulance arrived on Tuesday afternoon. She was then in the vehicle for 20 hours at the Royal Cornwall Hospital. It comes as an ambulance trust warns their lives are at risk because of delays in patient handovers. Also, as I said earlier, it was reported an 87-year-old man who fell under a makeshift shelter was waiting for an ambulance. Southwestern Ambulance Service, the NHS Foundation, said it was sorry for his response to both incidents. That was the person who said basically he had to wait 15 hours in that makeshift shelter. I mean, literally made out of a football goal and some umbrellas and a bin bag. I mean, it's absolutely appalling conditions.
What the hell, honestly? What even is that's not even a service. That's an abolishment, Charlie. That's just a dumping. That would be the sort of thing you see when you divorce your husband or wife, not a blooming hospital service. That is totally unacceptable in 2022, and the whole service of the NHS. It's hideous, Charlie. Absolutely hideous.
Well, we can all say that the NHS certainly needs reform, and I think we need to look very carefully at that, because if we're getting ambulance waiting times increasing and a backlog of patients to treat after the pandemic, it's very clear to me that action must urgently be taken. Unless the government can stop having holidays and seriously tackling political issues that matter for you. That goes for you, Boris Johnson, at number 10. And also, I think the Health Secretary, Stephen Barclay, needs to do media rounds to address issues surrounding ambulance waiting times. Now, with the Tory leadership contest, it was clear that there was a few issues, as I said, being spoke about. Zach, what did you take away from the GB News Tory leadership hustings the other day, hosted by Alistair Stewart the other day?
Yeah, I watched that, actually. Not often that I watch stuff on GB News, but obviously because it was a hustings, I felt like it was important to watch. My view was that I think it was more of the same thing. it very much played to the audience, especially Liz Truss, with certain bits saying like, "Oh, well, the BBC don't always get the facts right, but GB News do." That was very much played to the audience, not only to GB News viewers, but to the Conservative Party audience. They're bracing right-wing media quite a lot. Rishi Sunak I have to say, and I've noticed this in several of his performances, right? He is as passionate as ever, I have to say. Whether you agree or disagree, he's very passionate. And I feel like he's getting the better out of them recently. I don't agree with some of these ideas, like lefty woke council culture. It's just a load of dribble and words that you normally hear that just to ripe up the audience. But it's becoming more obvious to me, Charlie, that whoever becomes the next Prime Minister, they're going to govern by Conservative Party membership, not by what's best for the country, but they're going to govern based on Tory membership, weaning them up and all that sort of thing. And I just don't think that's a good idea, personally, because all they're going to do is cater to the Conservative Party audience. There's going to be their little base, right? Okay. You remember, it's a bit like Donald Trump's audience in America, influencing how he's going to govern America. Well, we're going to be governed by Conservative Party members in the future, not by Liz Truss or Rishi Sunak. In some ways, we're going to be governed by the minority of members, and that's not a good idea, to be fair. I mean, there's already talks. The Conservative Party, right? Okay, whoever gets the next Prime Minister, I'm afraid to say this, it's going to feel very out of touch with what's going to happen and what is going on, because we saw a lot of questions on immigration, housing, taxes and all that sort of thing. Very important, but what is not mentioned enough, and is still not being mentioned, is the gas and energy prices, Charlie, which are going to go up, and it's going to be announced. The next price cap is going to be announced next week as well. We're going to see the massive price hikes coming up, and £5,000, £6,000 potentially by next year. Who knows? But nevertheless, we're going to see price rises, and where's the ideas coming out of the Conservative Party to tackle them? I mean, they're probably going to announce some measures to help, from what Kwasi Kwarteng was mentioning. That'll probably be up to next Prime Minister, whoever gets in charge. I mean, Kwasi Kwarteng is probably going to have a role in a Liz Truss government potentially, by the looks of things, and some of the usual lot as well. Someone who won't have a role, by the way, in the next government is Michael Gove, because he's announced he's going to not be on the front bench, whoever takes charge. If it's Rishi, which is very unlikely will be, then although he's going to be backing him, he's not going to take a role on the front bench. It appears that Liz Truss is going to leave Rouse as well. So Michael Gove basically said he's had enough of staying in the cabinet and is going to focus on backbench role, which is kind of surprising in some way, but I think that's probably what's best for him. That's how he feels, then good for him. But yeah, I also think, Charlie, that the Conservative Party is not reading the mood of the nation. Like, Liz Truss has opposed windfall taxes, which is not really surprising, but it's popular. It's it's very popular, Charlie. And whilst these gas, electricity providers keep making massive amounts of profits, billions of pounds to be precise, the poor buggers are like us, Charlie, are suffering and paying even more for oil and gas, whilst the rest of them are profiting. And you have to say that Labour, on the other hand, have really caught the attention of the nation this week with their plans to freeze energy prices and put a price cap on Ofgem. I mean, it's £1,900 at the moment, Charlie. Labour proposals would mean that there would be put a freeze, which means that it would be kept to that price rather than expanding to 3,200 or whatever it was, and then 5,000 potentially down the line, which is totally unaffordable. I mean, it's 1,900 at the moment, and it could be 5,000 in the future. I mean, it's good policy, Charlie. They said it's 30 billion though. They said that they're going to fund it via closing the loopholes in the windfall tax, which is, I think, it's a good idea. I mean, it's the perfect idea, personally, in my view. And it's actually supported, would you believe it or not, Charlie, 85% of Conservatives support Labour's idea. So, they're getting poll boosts this week. Opinion poll came out this week. They went from 3 points to 9 points ahead, just in the matter of this week. It looks like their policy, Charlie, is cutting through, and it's cutting through well. And you have to consider that, Charlie, that, I can't eat. If anyways, hang on a minute, Charlie, I'm going to be back.
Yeah, that's fine. Zach's gone on mute. I just wanted to say that the Conservative Party members do seem to believe that Labour's windfall tax solution is the best way forward. It's going to be interesting to see how that gets on in the modern world with that, because you have to say the Conservative Party have got a big hand to do at the next election, come whatever happens. And yeah, I mean, Zach's going to be interesting whether Conservatives even say hang on to number 10 in the future, given these new policy changes.
I have to say, Charlie, I think they're misreading the room and they're getting outflanked once again by Labour. Labour are outflanking the Conservatives on the cost of living again. I mean, the price cap idea is very popular. I mean, it might. The problem with it, Charlie, I think, in terms of being being 30 billion and funded by windfall taxes, and I think it's been pointed out, is it may prolong inflation, and cost issues. But what I suppose the good thing about it, even if it prolongs it, it gets to the point where if you prolong it for, like, say, 6 months, this policy, they put the price cap freeze for 6 months. If you prolong the issue, it means that you can, when the prices start coming down, you'll be able to pay more of it back, because if the prices are going to start to come down, you're going to be able to afford it more. So, although this is being pushed into long-term potential issues, it's going to be pushed back to the point where it's going to become more affordable, rather than what it is now, which is unaffordable. So, it's a good policy in terms of that, Charlie. And the Conservatives, as I said, are running out of ideas. I mean, tonight there's a rumor from what the Sun is reporting that the Treasury is saying that GPs will be able to write prescriptions to give Britons money off their energy bills. I mean, it sounds like a good idea, and then you realise that GPs are on the roof and on their knees already, Charlie. And it's a totally, when you think about that, it's ludicrous, because GPs are already stressed on the brink as it is. They're stressed to the bits. And how they're going to deal with patients who want energy prices off? I mean, come on. It's going to be, they're not going to be able to take on the load. It's an unsustainable, ridiculous policy. And I'm just reading replies to all of this, Charlie, from what the Sun is reporting tonight. And, it's been hammered. This idea has been totally hammered from what the reporting from the Sun. This has been totally hammered. And this is not just your loony lefties, the Sun would say. This is across the board. It's been hammered, this idea of what the Treasury is planning to propose of giving prescriptions to their energy prices. It's not going to work.
It's going to be interesting to see how that debate. Guys, we've just had a major internet connection. We're back now. Sorry about that.
You briefly went. You're back.
We're back on now, and I'm going to play for you a quick video of what GBU Tom Harwood said when he spoke to Conservative Party supporters at the Manchester Tory leadership hustings about what candidates they supported in the race to become Prime Minister. Have a listen to this.
Some people asked questions this evening with me now. And Madam, if you'd step forward first, what do you make of this evening?
I thought it was absolutely brilliant. Both brilliant. Whoever gets in, we've got a cracker.
And are you leaning towards anyone individually?
I've leaned both ways tonight. I've gone with Rishi and then back to Liz and then back to Rishi and back to Liz. I asked the question of Rishi. He gave me the answer I wanted, and that was about the green belt. At the moment, we're getting a lot of green belt being built on. In Culture, where I come from, I'm a borough councillor for Culture, Glaithbury and Croft. My name's Carol Benson. And I'm fighting passionately to stop them ripping up a field that has currently got corn on it and has had corn on it for hundreds of years and stick houses on that we don't need.
Well, that's such an interesting perspective, because, sir, if we can bring in you, sir, because you asked a question about house building, and that's almost sort of the opposite end of this discussion. What did you ask?
I asked what the Conservative Party was going to do about increasing the building of housing, because the multiple of or the value of housing has gone up from 4 times average earnings to about 8 times, and fewer people can readily get onto the housing ladder.
And do you feel like your question was answered?
No, I don't think it was. We need to build more houses, and we need to ensure that people have the ability to buy them, and we haven't got that.
Really interesting point there. I'm going to leave you there so we can get through as many voices as we can. Madam, what do you make of this evening?
Well, I enjoyed the whole show basically because it gave me a better opportunity to get to know who is actually the one who will lead this country in the right direction. My burning question was about the hospitals, because when in 2019 Boris Johnson came into power, the all Conservative Party's manifesto said there'd be 40 new hospitals, and when I hear that at the moment out of those 40, 80% have got no completion date, or they will possibly be built after the general elections, on what my worry is that what's going to happen if we run out of funds, and when we're going to run out of funds and the whole project collapses.
Really interesting and important point there, affecting not just Conservative members but also people up and down the country. I think often we forget how much overlap there is between what Conservative members think and what people in the country think. Sir, what did you make of this evening?
I thought it was a really excellent format. I came to the debates between Boris and Jeremy Hunt in the time that Boris was elected, and I thought that the whole way that it's being done now is much slicker. And indeed, I think there's much more scrutiny of all the candidates. I thought that Alistair was very good. I thought he asked Rishi some really tough questions, and I've got to say, I think Rishi did a fantastic job in answering them. Every time I see him, he impresses me more and more.
Really interesting stuff there. Thank you so much. And excuse me, what did you think of this evening?
I thought it was marvellous, yes. So I've seen both these candidates at the local gigs that they were doing in Knutsford and Chester. And I cast my vote. I was very difficult to decide.
Do you mind asking me who you're voting for?
Yes, I voted for Liz. It was a very hard decision, but I went for that decision, yes. Hopefully she'll do a good job.
Well, interesting stuff. Thank you so much for talking to us, sir. And you have been sort of wavering. We were having a little bit of a chat earlier. You've been wavering. Has tonight helped you make up your mind?
I was swaying towards Rishi at the start, but he has put on a really good performance tonight. And I liked his little piece at the start about being an underdog. But I think he has really shone with those tough questions. Alistair did have some hard questions to both candidates, but Rishi just come across so strongly. Would have liked to have heard more about his plans for rail, especially given that we're in Manchester. So, the Goulburn link of High Speed 2. I know Liz has promised to build Northern Powerhouse rail in full, but there's no commitments from either candidates about the Goulburn link. I live in Preston, so it would really affect me with High Speed 2 trains to Preston in the north. So, hopefully, if that does come into power, we'll get a solution on that and hopefully see shovels in the ground.
Interesting stuff. Well, thank you so much for talking through, and thank you to everyone here for staying behind and talking through what was an extraordinary event. Hopefully this has helped people make up their minds, potentially even move the dial in this leadership contest. Not long to go now. One of the last most significant events of this leadership contest here exclusively on GB News.
Thank you there to Tom Harwood for talking to all the listeners there and about the Tory leadership hustings there live in Manchester. Is that what you make to the opinions from some of the members of the public there on the Conservative Party hustings?
I have to say, opinions are quite strong, you have to say. Some of them very critical of Rishi Sunak, some very critical of Liz Truss. I mean, it's a mixed audience, but they're certainly, I have to say, a bit more passionate about what they think compared to last time, I have to say, compared to all the, the 2019 hustings. And they're certainly a lot more toned down, a lot more, set views compared to last time, I have to say. So obviously the momentum at the moment is Liz Truss. And I can't see it saying out of the way. We've got like 2 weeks left of this contest, Charlie. and momentum is still in her direction. So yeah, you know, it's not totally representative before audience, but nevertheless, it's going Liz Truss's direction, and it's remaining that way.
So, who will be the new Prime Minister of the UK? We'll find out in a couple of weeks' time. Please keep up to date with all the latest news as we get them. A few weeks to go until the new Prime Minister of the UK will be elected into number 10, and also the leader of the Conservative Party. Moving on now, lots to cram into the show tonight. The continuation of the Russian invasion of Ukraine reaches new heights this week, with plans of potentially being nuclear, according to a Turkish president. The Turkish president, I think his name's Recep Tayyip Erdogan or something. Sorry about the pronunciation of his name, but he warned this week of a potential nuclear catastrophe as Russia continues to attack the Zaporizhzhia steel plant with constant bombardment and constant bombing, and also more reports this week of bombings in Kharkiv, especially on a residential home. War crimes being committed everywhere you go. I mean, really, is this what Vladimir Putin's forces are capable of doing, Zach?
Yeah, it's they're very much capable of doing these sort of things. One of the things that obviously been the big news this week is the Zaporizhzhia nuclear plant, which has been subject to bombardment, basically, from the Russians, and it's also debunked claims about Ukraine being the aggressor, because obviously there's some satellite imaging this week of the plant, and it still looks very well, despite the Russian claims that they're being destroyed and all that sort of thing. But Russia are bombarding it at the moment, Charlie. The Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, they got lots of reactors and lots of things going on there, but it has been targeted. Residents have been fleeing, and because if this plant keeps getting targeted, there is a potential for horror, basically a horror scene not since Chernobyl, Charlie, where the nuclear plant went kaput and caused catastrophic consequences in the aftermath of that. And something like this, a nuclear attack on a power plant, is horrifying. It is absolutely horrifying. It's going to kill many people. It's going to damage probably the environment, I have to say, no doubt about it, Charlie. It's going to be environmentally suicidal. Europe's largest nuclear plant being used to blackmail is quite something, and it's a scary thought that is being targeted this way. Now, I noticed there's been agreements between the Turkish, the Ukrainians, and the Europe for the inspector to go into the power plant to assess its condition at the moment. That's good, but whether the Russians stick to it is another thing as well. It is a scary prospect at the moment that a power plant is being targeted in this way. It is really, really horrifying at the moment, and it could well, backfire quite quickly as well. It is a bad prospect to see. The other one, as we've seen as well, Crimea has been a target this week as well. There's been reports of explosions at the HQ of Russia's Black Sea Fleet in Crimea. Unnamed aerial vehicles striking the Black Sea Fleet, headquartered in Sevastopol as well. The US is putting more funding in, I believe, Charlie, putting about £700 billion of further aid to Ukraine. That's good to see as well. And multiple children, I'm afraid, have been injured following a strike in Mykolaiv, Charlie, in the region. And Mykolaiv, there's been striking a residential building there as well. So it's still going, and the risks are getting bigger and bigger, and the aggression is getting worse and worse. And we're probably in that new phase now where it's going to get ugly, I think, Charlie. It's going to get ugly quite quickly.
Also in the news this week, Chinese and Russian leaders Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin will attend the G20 summit in November. Indonesia's President Joko Widodo has announced. Do I expect that news will change? We don't know, but seems to me that according to that, it seems like both leaders are planning on making a potential appearance at the G20. Will they receive condemnation and criticism? Probably very likely to. As well, moving on now to the sport briefing. Yes, we are slightly behind running tonight, but I'll try and get up with all the latest news as we can. There's been so much on the agenda live on YouTube for the Charlie Tolhurst show tonight. We're now going to talk about the final round of the Formula E season, and we have the first champion of 2022 pretty much already being announced in single-seater motor racing. Last weekend, Stoffel Vandoorne claimed his maiden Formula E title in a final race sack that was pretty eventful in Korea.
Yeah, certainly eventful, Charlie. But as I say, Stoffel Vandoorne, world champion, first Formula E title as well. And a great job for Vandoorne to get a title, finishing well ahead of Mitch Evans. At the end of the day, 33 points he finished ahead of Mitch Evans in a pretty much decisive, race. It was bound to go to the final. It was bound to be his victory anyway, but nevertheless, it was an important victory and a huge victory for Vandoorne really in the championship. Obviously, didn't win the race. It was Edward. I think it was Edward Mortara that
Mortara,
won the final race, but it was Stoffel Vandoorne basically finished enough ahead to catch the title, win the title, and be crowned season 8 winner of Formula E. As well, it was a good. Edward Mortara won that ahead of Vandoorne. Jake Dennis was third. Robin Fights fourth. Oliver Askew, good race for him, fifth from 11th. Sixth was Jonathan Verne. Seventh was Mitch Evans. Good progress for the field. Started 13th for me. It was a poor qualifying anyway. Nick Cassidy, 8th. Got the fastest lap from 14th. Number one, good one. Sebastian Buemi, 9th. 19th to 9th. Good race for him. And Felix da Costa, who was the pole sitter, had a disastrous race, Charlie. Going from 1st to 10th in, awful race for him. And there was quite a lot of DNFs, actually. Andrew Lotter, Ola Verone, Dan Tickton, Pascal Wehrlein, Nick de Vries, Maximum Guntoir, and Sasha Fanatis, which is 16th. Now, I believe that's a cover drive for Sasha Fanatis. I think one of them broke their, I can't remember if it was falling ill, broke their hand or anything like that, but it was a cover driver for the Dragon Penske team there, 16th for Sacha Fanatis, 15th followed Turbo, 14th Norman Atef, obviously Sergio Castro 13th, Alexander Siv 12th, Degrassi 11th, and Felix Gossett, as I say, 10th as well. But another season of Formula E have been wrapped up, Charlie, as well. It's been quite an eventful season. It's an interesting stat, Charlie, because Stoffel Vandoorne, who despite being the world champion, Charlie, just despite the fact that he only won one race this season, he actually managed to win the championship. That's quite impressive. It's not often that you see people with only one race wins win a championship out of 15 races. But his consistency has been key, Charlie. To be able to win the championship and finish ahead of his rival. It's been crucial. But yeah, that's another season Formula E over. Next season is going to be a brand new era of Formula E, Charlie, because the Generation 3 cars are going to be making their debut. I think it's the Generation 3 will start in 2023, Charlie, with a new era of cars, much more faster, more aligned to, I'd say, to Generation 1. It looks a bit more like them, but their new cars, they kind of look like Lego cars in some way, fashion, but big. But they're going to be more powerful. They're going to be more interesting, and it all kick off, Charlie, I believe, in Mexico City, Charlie. That's going to be interesting. It's the first time Formula E is going to be kicking off in Mexico for the season, taking over for Diriyah. Diriyah is going to follow afterwards with a double header as well, Charlie, on the on January as well, at the end of January. But it will start off with races at Mexico, then Dira. A new addition to the calendar will be India, Charlie, on the 11th of February, and then Brazil and Sao Paulo has also got a new race as well. They're going to be racing across the Sao Paulo street circuit as well. But there's going to be 18 races, Charlie, up from 15 as well. 18 races next season from January to July. They're fitting it fitting it tightly in across 7 months, 18 races in 7 months. There'll be a few double headers, such as South Korea. But the season's finale, it will start off in Mexico and will finish in London, Charlie.
London.
From the 14th of January to the 30th of July next year. So a lot to look forward to on that front.
Yeah, and driver moves being announced as well. As I said, obviously, last week, Lucas Di Grassi joining Venturi. And actually not Venturi, joining Mahindra. My apologies. And Lucas Di Grassi is moving to a new team. But Antonio Felix da Costa, who's competed in Formula E since the inaugural 2014-2015 campaign, and strode the driver's title in Season 6 with Portuguese dominating unique 6-race, 9-day Berlin finale, will join Porsche. And this will be a huge move for the team. So, yes, Andre Lotterer is being replaced at Porsche. Where is he off to next? Also, as well, Sebastian Buemi, who I think is Season 3 champion, is bidding farewell to the Edam's name and its legacy in Formula One. After racing the Edam's outfit in 2014, Sebastian Buemi bids farewell to the name that brought him so much success in all-electric series, delivering the 2015-16 title. He was also instrumental in securing the team's championship between 2014 and 17. His own words, Buemi plays tribute team, and its late founder, Jean-Paul Durot. So Sebastian Buemi will keep you updated what his plans are for next season. Moving on now we're going to go straight to the Cup Series now. Plenty of action in the Cup Series last week. Kevin Harvick taking another win, a second win in a row. And Zach, he's putting himself in contention now, isn't he?
Yeah, certainly. I think it's 2 races in a row.
2 from 2, yeah.
Yeah, 2 races in a row, Charlie, that he won the series races as well. Very consistent. Kevin Harvick is getting that consistent form that he needs now, Charlie, because we're now onto the penultimate race of we're onto the penultimate race now. 2 races to go in the regular season, Charlie, and it all comes down to really this at the moment. Is 2 races to go. It's hugely important now because we just get up the standings here at the moment in terms of the point standings and the implications of that as well. We there is still things to be decided at the moment, Charlie, as well. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So really, Charlie, we have pretty much the whole grid confirmed for the playoffs at the minute. At the moment, we've got 16 drivers, Charlie, that have won a race, and now it's going to be, if we do get another races as well, new first time winning the season, it's all going to come down to the points. It's all down to the most points, who's going to start with who. Now, looking at the standings at the moment, Charlie, at the moment, Chase Elliott is the leader at the moment as well. But we look at the standings here at the moment, it looks very close. At the moment, this is the regular season position as well. So Chase Briscoe is 17th, but he's got a victory. He needs to consider what he's going to do, because it's going to be very important, to get good race results and finish ahead of everybody else in the last 2 races. But yeah, Harvick was winner of the last race. Very dominant drive from him. He finished ahead of Christopher Bell in 2nd position, ahead of Chris Buescher, ahead of Hamlin, ahead of Elliott. This weekend, they're racing at Watkins Glen. Big race this weekend, I have to say, certainly as well. This weekend. Now, currently, Xfinity race is still going at the moment, Charlie. They're racing at the moment, lap 47 at the moment. William Byron is currently leading ahead of Ty Gibbs in second position, ahead of Noah Grigson, ahead of AJ Allman, ahead of Jake Berry. That's the top 5 at the moment. The Cup Series race is happening tomorrow at 8 p.m. UK time. Chase Elliott will be starting on the pole for that, ahead of Carl Larson, ahead of Michael McDowell, ahead of William Byron, ahead of Tyler Reddick, 5th. AJ Allman will do 6th. Christopher Bush is 7th. Austin 8th. Daniel Sawyer's 9th. Kyle Busch in 10th position. Ty Gibbs, by the way, is still standing in for Kurt Busch, by the way, just so you're aware. He is starting in 16th position as well. And this weekend as well, Charlie, I should point out, sees a very familiar face in the field. Starting 27th this weekend, Kimi Räikkönen is racing in NASCAR this weekend. He's racing in the Chevrolet 91 car. He's
The Trackhouse 91 Camaro, yeah?
Yeah, he's raced the Project 91 car this weekend. He's gonna be he may be running for 6 to 8 races next season, potentially, as well, which is promising news, and that'd be great to see. But Kimi Räikkönen starting in 27th position for his return to NASCAR in some ways. He's raced in the Truck Series before. And he's going to make an effort to race on the road course at Watkins Glen. It'll be exciting to see what he can do. And also another one in the field as well, I should point out, Danny Fiat is this weekend as well. He's starting 36th as well, after 39th in the field. That tomorrow at 8 p.m. And then next week, Charlie, is the regular season finale at Daytona. That will be where all the playoff places will be decided. That will be at midnight, the 28th of August. That'll be at midnight. It'll be at Daytona under the lights. So it will be a very exciting regular season finale before the playoffs.
Yeah, and of course it is. Well, I say the final race is, I think, the playoffs, the Coke Zero, and then the Cookout Southern 400 Darlington will start the playoffs off. And also on the 18th of September, we go back to Bristol for the tarmac race, Bass Pro Shops. So very interesting. Moving on now to, we'll touch on Formula One now, because IndyCar, even though they are, I think IndyCar do are racing this weekend at the Bummer Automotive Group. Just want to say IndyCar have actually brought start time forward, I think, due to weather issues. So that is another thing. That's another thing as well. So we'll keep you updated with that. That is due to start August the 20th, 6 o'clock Eastern time.
That's 11 p.m. our time.
Yeah, that's when the IndyCar race starts. Pole position, I believe, has been confirmed as Will Power. That is the person who's taking Andretti's pole position for that one. Let's go on to Formula One now before we move on to do Charlie's good news. Next weekend, we'll see the return of Formula One, longly anticipated return of Formula One from the summer break. We go to Spa-Francorchamps next week, a circuit that's been used since 1915 and has seen many different winners over the past, should I say, past 10 years, past 20 years, whatever you want to be at. This circuit is so iconic. And Spa-Francorchamps leaves a huge legacy behind for motorsport. Obviously, you might remember back in 2019, Charles Leclerc winning his maiden F1 race on a horrifying weekend for motor racing, where we lost Antoine Hubert in a Formula 2 accident, in a horrifying Formula 2 crash, and nearly also one Manuel Correa losing his life as well, thankfully escaping but undergoing several months of rehabilitation after suffering horrifying injuries from the crash. Zach, Spa-Francorchamps for F1 certainly leaves a legacy behind it.
Certainly does, Charlie. We could be in sadness knowing this could well be the final race in Spa, depending on what the settlements on the F1 calendar is for next season, depending on where everything else. But to think that, that Spa could be, we could be going to Spa for the final time, is quite something, Charlie. It's a very sad potential end to what has been an era of intense racing. Just it's a classic venue, Charlie, and the last thing we want to see is Spa off the calendar. And I don't really want to see it on the put off the calendar, but obviously because other races are being fitted in, it means some have to come off. I mean, we're looking at Belgium, France, potentially off Canada next year, depending on the situation. But yeah, Spa, it's going to be an interesting race, given the incredible silly season we've had, Charlie, of driver moves and more uncertainty in the driver market, and the fact that there are a few changes in regarding the floors as well. There's going to be more monitoring of the floors, and that's going to be enforced this week, next weekend. And it's going to be very crucial to see whether it's going to affect the performance of Red Bull and Ferrari, and whether Mercedes are going to get even closer to the top two in the running. I mean, Max Verstappen's dominant at the moment. I can't see him
80 points clear.
Yeah, he is the favourite to take the title at the moment, no doubt about it, Charlie. And I suspect this weekend is going to be a favourite for the Red Bulls. I think Red Bull is favourite the next two races, no doubt. We've got Spa this weekend. Oh no, actually not. Maybe not, because it's Belgium this weekend, Dutch Grand Prix the following weekend. I should say, I keep confusing thinking it's Monza, but Belgium, then Holland next week, the weekend after. We've got a 3-race one, by the way. So Belgium, Holland, and Spa in 3 races in 3 weeks, Charlie. It's going to be fun, but I expect Red Bull will be favourites, 2 of them, Belgium and Monza. Holland could work in the Ferrari favour, maybe in the Mercedes favour, potentially as well, with their improved performance as well. But yeah, we've got a lot to watch as we start the second half of the season.
Yeah, keep an eye out for the other drivers. I think Max Verstappen is, whatever happens, if he can pick more race wins up, he's going to win the title this year. He looks all but set. But anything can happen, guys. As anything can happen, anything can change. And Formula One fans know alike. What happened? I can't think of one year where a title was turned around in the last half of the season. Oh, maybe Lewis Hamilton 2008 winning the World Championship after passing Timo Glock. So, yeah, in Brazil. That's all I can say. So that's the only time I can remember when a championship was decided. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below, guys, about Formula One. Now it's time for Charlie's good news this week. What good news do I have this week, you may be asking? Well, it's not good news if you're a Manchester United fan. I can assure you that, losing last week. Premier League update coming in a bit. Well, actually, speaking of Charlie's good news this week, we are actually going to do a football update. Yes, we'll do a little football update this week because we're running pretty short on time. We'll do a football update, do a Premier League football whilst we're here, because we have had significant results that have been announced. We're going to go over your match day fixtures as we speak. So let's start off with some of the football match results. And me and Zach will give his view afterwards on some of the results. So today's football matches are in. In match day 3, Tottenham were 1-0 winners at Wolves at home today. Everton and Nottingham Forest drew 1-1. Leicester City lost 2-1 or 1-2 against Southampton. Fulham 3, Brentford 2, Crystal Palace 3, Aston Villa 1, and the big result of the day was Arsenal winning 3-0 at Bournemouth. For Arsenal fans, I'm sure they had their drinks at the ready. Zach, what do you make for the latest football results?
Know a few Arsenal fans that probably be coming out really happy with this one, especially Piers Morgan. As well. But yeah, in terms of results, Spurs lucky to get a win today, I think. Especially Wolves were very good in the first half with a defensive display, very good. Everton, Nottingham Forest, it was a close match. 1-1 is pretty much fairly reflected as well. Leicester City are struggling, by the way, losing 2-1 to Southampton. They're in the bottom 3 after 3 matches. Oh, as a Leicester City supporter, not going through a good period at the moment, you have to say. 2-1 loss is not the result that you want to see. Now, one of the, I think, significant results of the day, Charlie, I'm very, probably the most interesting one is Fulham 3, Brentford 2. Now, you may think, well, that's a minor result, but Fulham came from 2-0 down, Charlie, to recover to win 3. It's a great result for Fulham. The determination was really on display there as well. Palace 3-1 win over, very significant victory for them today. Certainly on that front. And Arsenal, I think, have they finally found their mojo, you wonder? 3-0 win against Bournemouth. It looks like they're starting to play very well. Their long-term plan is developing, and it's going to be interesting to see whether they can make consistent form of results, which would be important to see as well. So we got matches tomorrow, and on Monday. So we've got 4 more matches actually, Charlie. West Ham, Brighton at 2:00 tomorrow. Also Leeds and Chelsea, Newcastle, Manchester City, and then the big match of the weekend, Charlie, a very old firm derby, Manchester United, Liverpool on the Monday Night Football at 8 p.m. That is going to be the match of the week. We still haven't had that yet, but we're going to have the match of the week on Monday, 8 p.m. Manchester United, Liverpool collide. Is this going to be another crisis moment for Manchester United, considering their poor first 2 results? It'll be quite something if Liverpool can thrash them on Monday night, or whether the table is going to turn and Man United can actually fight for it.
I know. God, I'll be laughing if they lose again. Oh dear.
Oh yeah, we'll be laughing.
Let's just say that I'm not a football. By the way, guys, when I was younger, I don't follow football that much, but I used to be an avid Manchester United supporter, but not anymore, given the club's downfall. The downfall of the surge of Eric Ten Hag's appointment may have led some Man United fans a bit disappointed, or very disappointed at the run of form at the moment. It was a 4-0 or a 2-0, I think they lost. Who was they playing their first match? Was it Southampton or something?
It was Brighton, I think they lost.
Brighton, they lost 2-0. Oh dear.
2-1, I think it was actually. I think it was 2-1.
Something like that.
Might have something like that, yeah. But it was 4-0 at Brentford. I can't imagine what the score result would be. It could all, as I said, Charlie, it could all change. It could be that Manchester United come out swinging and flying this week and actually win. But that would be surprising. I'd be surprised, really, to be fair, Charlie. But who knows? It could be 0-0 draw as well.
Or it could be, as we all call it, Eric Ten conceded hug. there we go. Keep you updated on that, guys. Now it's time for a look at the national newspapers. By the way, Rishi Sunak's probably watching Southampton next weekend. It's time now to look at the latest newspapers. Also, with some local headlines coming straight afterwards. Tomorrow's papers today at the ready. One paper has been released on the 23rd.
Only one? Oh dear.
Oh no, we don't have one. We have quite a few released now.
Oh, yeah, we go. There we go.
Just refreshed the page. The Telegraph for Sunday goes, Truss will halt NHS doctor exodus. That was the top front page there. Sunday Mail goes, fraud probe, power chiefs, £11 million wages. Energy bosses pay slated as families face cost of living crisis.
Poorly.
Daily Star goes, Princess Diana death cover-up. And the Sunday Express goes, Boris mighty trade deal to cut bills. And also the Observer goes, Labour surges amid Tory fears over Truss's tax cut plans. Do people not want Liz Truss Prime Minister? I don't know on that one. What do you make to the latest newspaper headline so far, Zach?
Right, let's go through them, Charlie. Liz Truss has got an interview with the Sunday Telegraph, I think it is, as well, for this week's edition of the Sunday Telegraph. She's vowed to ease backlogs of priority alongside energy and tax cuts. She has pledged to halt the exodus of doctors from the NHS to tackle COVID backlog amid soaring waiting lists. As we know, Charlie, we covered this today, that the absolute long waiting lists and ridiculous hospital issues is just causing problems for the NHS that really need to be addressed, no doubt about it. As well, not surprisingly, the NHS is going to be key front to really the next election, really, I think, solving the backlog, being able to afford backlog, being able to, it's going to get worse as August and the summer goes along and the winter goes along, Charlie, no doubt about it. And by the way, I actually thought it was Liz Truss as the picture first and realised it was just an old woman. I don't know who it was, but if that really what older Liz Truss looks like, I'm a bit worried. Anyway, but yeah, there's also talks about the energy cap hit potentially £6,000. I mean, it's £1,900. I mean, come on, as it is. that is nuts as well. It's quite something, Charlie. It's unbelievable. The Sunday Mail goes for something that fraud pro power chiefs £11 million wages. The Scottish Power earned over 11 million last year whilst facing allegations of fraud, bribery, and breach of privacy. That's sometimes entitled billionaires and wealthy people for you, Charlie, really much as well. It's quite something. They're profiting off of fraud and idiocy, and the customers are passing on the cost to them. It's just greed like that makes my blood boil, Charlie. As well, it's there should be an investigation into that company because it just makes me so annoyed that they continue to get away with this. Nothing happens. They continue to get away with this sort of entitled, privileged, rich, powerful, and unaffordable position where they put customers at risk. I mean, come on about it. You think about 11 million whilst they're getting off of it, and then it's passed on to the customer. I mean, come on, yeah, it's just pathetic, really. As well, and it's still happening. It's still going on. It's ridiculous. It's an awful situation that the customers are having to be treated like this. The Star has gone from their comical front page to a more serious front page. They're reporting that Diana's bodyguard, Lee Sanson, believes British agents may have accidentally caused her death, sparking wild theories about the cover-up. Well, let's just say this way. The actual incident itself was the driver actually crashing into a thing. I mean, there's also a lot of theories about this as well. The driver was a scapegoat. Spies may have clipped the DI's car. They believe British agents were behind this. It's a bit of speculation. I don't know how serious to take that sort of thing, Charlie. But I was surprised this has just been reported right now, when this all should have been reported about 20, 30 years ago, to be quite frankly, Charlie. I don't know why it's been reported now. Anyway, the Sunday Express goes for the Boris Johnson, interestingly, despite the fact he's not going to be Prime Minister for a couple of weeks. Boris Johnson promised businesses that joining the Pacific Trade Bloc would lead to lower prices at supermarkets. So this is what he's talking about. So this is a trade deal joining the TCTP or something like that. The Pacific Trade Bloc. I can't remember what it's called. It's a name, something like that. It would mean what he said is it would give lower prices in food and grocery products as well. I mean, I don't even know, to be fair, Charlie, because Australia trade deals to ruin farmers. They're no good at the moment. These trade deals are completely worthless when they don't make much effect overall and actually give lower standards for customers, Charlie. It's all useless, and it's just not. The trade deals aren't making too much of a difference. The Guardian, the Observer goes on the lead that on the Labour Party's poll bounce, Charlie, 8 points. Opinion poll today that was released at 8:00, 8-point lead with their methodology. YouGov have had it at 15 points yesterday after they announced their price cap freeze, £1,900. It's not surprising, to be fair. It's cutting through. It's supported by Conservative Party voters. It's got wide support. Labour have had a good week, Charlie. You can't deny that. Labour have had a very good week with the policies that they've announced as well. They think, experts say that likely PM policies will cost us dearly. I kind of agree because they're all inflationary and untax-worthy as well. They're also saying that they're not addressing the cost of living is going to have dire electoral consequences as well. And if the poll was to be held today, Keir Starmer would be in number 10, Charlie, as well, if a poll, if an election would happen today. Let's go for some of them that didn't make the front page at the moment. We may come here later. The Independents report that cafe restaurants and shops are closing due to spiraling energy bills.
Oh, God.
Approximately 1 out of every 7 small businesses is concerned about downsizing and closing. I've read actually a lot of people actually on social media talking about having that their small businesses, Charlie, are closing because they can't afford the energy bills that are being used.
And lockdown done more harm than good as well.
Well, that's what I can't remember. Where's this say? Was it on the Telegraph? I can't remember where.
Yeah, something like that. It was on one of them newspapers.
Somewhere like that. It said something like that. I don't know, to be fair, Charlie. I think it's all unproven, really. I don't know if it's just to whip up the support of anti-lockdowners and all sorts of that sort of thing. But nevertheless, Charlie, yeah, it's interesting as well. I mean, small business is not. What we seem to understand is it's not just small business. It's not just customers that are going to face problems with gas price and all that sort of thing, Charlie, and energy costs. It's small businesses, as we've seen in the Independent front page. 1 in 7. 1 in 7, Charlie, facing downsizing and closure is very bad for the economical situation. I mean, there's talks of recession by the Bank of England later this quarter. So who knows, Charlie? It's not looking good.
And Finland's party in PM takes a drug test. Sanya Moran apparently.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a totally hideous storyline, Charlie. Where PM, this is not during COVID, by the way. There's no COVID lockdowns going on, by the way, in Finland. They are living their life. The Finland's Prime Minister is also going out what he typically do on a Friday night out, something which people typically do, by the way, here in the UK when they want to have a chill down time. It's not what a normal citizen was doing. She's been criticised for partying more than being a Prime Minister. Make your mind up. I don't know whether people should make their mind up on that. I think it's okay for a Prime Minister to down tools a little bit. But it appears that the Prime Minister is very popular in Finland anyway. So I don't see why this would go down as a bad thing in Finland unless she's found a drug test, obviously, as well. I hope she's passed the drug test. Let me just make it clear as well. But yeah, big problems there. Not big problems really there, but lots of UK focus, things that are happening and cost of living. With, dire consequences on the way. Often's going to announce the energy cap price, by the way, next week. And it's not going to be pretty, I have to say, Charlie.
Yeah, well, there's all the latest. That was all the latest paper news. Time now for a quick little update on what's happening on local news. Very, very quickly. I'll cover the local stories whilst we're here. This week, Tesco delivery not arrived. Delivery problems face supermarkets, leaving customers fuming. Earlier this week, it was reported that supermarket chains, Tesco home delivery shoppers have seen their orders cancelled today due to a technical issue. A spokesperson from Tesco said that the chain was really sorry for cancellations caused by a technical issue. Unacceptable in my view. These issues have got to be fixed and we must address these issues as soon as possible. So again, I think it's clear to me, do we need to have a look at fixing systems with supermarkets? Again, I think that's clear as well in what is happening. Also reported in the news, a driver drove at around 100 miles an hour down the wrong side of the A12 during a police chase. He was never found.
God almighty.
100 miles an hour was reported last Sunday on August the 14th at around 6:30 p.m. It started with a pursuit near the KFC tollgate standway. The driver of a green BMW X5 refused to stop for the police heading towards the A12. The driver then entered from the wrong side of the A12 from Spring Lane Junction 27 heading towards Marks Tay. During the chase, the police estimated the driver reached a speed of over 100 miles an hour. Along the way, the car hit a number of vehicles without stopping. Eventually, it crashed into Marks Tay, and the car's recovered, but the driver had fled. So I think there was actually a big accident during the week on the A12. I think that might have been what caused it. So, oh, God. reckless driving,
Jaws, man.
idiots, please be careful on the roads.
Pretty much.
Is the question. Now it's time for the final segment of the show. The Great British Star and Red Devils of the week. And the Great British Star and Red Devils, as always, I'll kick my nominations off this week with the Great British Star nominations. Well, I'm going to give my first nomination to Jeremy Kyle. It's an interesting nomination, this one. I have to say, Jeremy Kyle, I think, has done a great job presenting Piers Morgan Uncensored whilst he's been on away. And I have to say, I feel like he's actually fitting really well into Talk TV. And I have to say, the comment he made earlier in the week about immigration as well, actually made me quite proud, actually, where he basically suggested that migrants, he basically said migrants were committing dangerous crimes. And the other person, I think it was Grace Blakely, who was on the station, said migrants? Are these migrants just coming over? Oh, well, to be honest with you, migrant crossings have been absurd at the moment, and I think we need to stop them immediately. Honorary mention this week for the Great British Star as well goes to this person here. It's a positive news story that I'm going to address right now as our Great British Star of the week. I'm also going to give it to this person, the world's greenest. Actually, no, we'll go with this one. The Dutch Expo that shows you 5 highlights gets my Great British Star this week. Because apparently it's spread over 60 hectares. This cable car is apparently covering the 192 plots land. It's this Dutch growing green city that gets my Star of the week, apparently, because it is a very interesting building that I would love to see more of. Very controversial nomination there as an honorary one. Red Devils for me this week has to be Sadiq Khan. Absolutely has to be the unacceptable crime in London. Can I just say as well to Sadiq Khan, please make London safer. The fact that train stations are being manipulated because of rail strikes. Get them sorted out immediately. And my honorary nomination this week goes to the Transport Secretary, Grant Shapps, for suggesting, and I quote this now, cyclists should have number plates on them and be subjected to 20-mile-an-hour speed limits. This is a Conservative Party MP voicing these concerns. I mean, are you being serious, Grant Shapps, when you say this? Oh my God. Zach, what do you make to my latest nominations?
I only want to start on with the cycling thing, Charlie. Who are seriously thinking up these ideas? I don't. This is just a stupid idea. Like, give them insurance, give them number plates, give them tax and everything like that. It's just going to for the idea that we're supposed to be going green and using more cycling. It's just going to deter people from buying cycling. It's going to make cycling too expensive, unenjoyable. And if you're going to do that, Charlie, you might as well put more cycling lanes in, I'm afraid, as an exchange, because otherwise it just becomes completely unaffordable and put more red tape for administration workers. I think it's a silly idea, personally, the cycling one, personally ridiculous as well. But anyway, Charlie, I'm going to move on to my nominations. I'm going to start with the British Star of the Week. And this really is truly, Charlie, a British Star, because a 16-year-old British boy, Mac Rutherford, is about to complete to become the youngest person to fly around the world solo. He's about to break the Guinness World Record for that. He started the mission in Bulgaria in March, and soon he's about probably in a few days' time, Charlie, be able to complete his journey around the world, become the youngest person to fly across it. The record currently is held by Travis Ludlow. He's 18, also a fellow Brit is himself as well. Zara at 19 become the youngest woman to fly around the world solo as well. But now he's in New York at the moment. He's set off from JFK Airport 2 days. He's going to land in the UK on Monday the 22nd, Charlie. And then he's looking, weather permitting, by the way, hopefully weather permitting, to return to his starting point in Bulgaria and complete his mission on the 24th of August, Charlie. He's been going from across Canada, South China, South Korea, Japan, Africa, UAE, Dubai. Honestly, incredible what this 16-year-old has achieved, Charlie. And he is my British star.
I have to give him that as well. I have to give him that.
He's brilliant. 16-year-old flying across the world at the youngest age, about to get breaking Guinness World Record. What a proper British star that is. So hats off to you, Matt Rutherford. Brilliant job. The Red Devils have got 2 this week, Charlie. I'm going to give it to the first one, and I'm going to give it to the stab of the person who stabbed the 87-year-old person in a wheel in a buggy. I mean, how on earth could you even think about that? It's just so heartless and so soulless, Charlie, that even people are considering doing that sort of thing in any of the streets, let alone London, any street, Charlie. It's just heartless, it's just cruel, and there's a thing that needs to be. It's a virus, Charlie, that needs to be get rid of. Certainly in London, no doubt about it. The second Red Devil I'm going to give this week, Charlie, is the sewer companies, because as you might have seen this week, Charlie, our seas have become full of sewage. Take in East Sussex, for example, Charlie, where sewage has been spread everywhere into the sea, forcing the sea to close to people who use the sea to swim in, Charlie. Somewhere in Hastings, in Pevensey, Norman's Bay, for example, their beaches are normally open, Charlie, and the sea is normally open to the public for everyone to use. It is closed because raw sewage is being going into our waters, Charlie, and putting people in danger. I mean, how on earth has this been allowed to happen? I'll tell you how it's been allowed to happen, because Tory MPs voted on measures that allowed raw sewage to go into our seas early this year. They are the problem. Brexit has ruined these environmental problems even more, to the point where sewage has been allowed in our seas. It's disgrace that water companies have allowed this, Charlie, and people can't go into the sea in the summer because it's been filled up with raw sewage and crap, basically. It is an absolute appalling, Charlie, that's even been allowed to happen. So I'm going to give water companies and sewage companies Red Devil of the Week as well, for the person who stabbed the 87-year-old in the back. And the British star goes to that pilot as well, Charlie.
I have to say the Red Devil, I think we'd all agree on, would be the stabber, the 87-year-old man who got the 44-year-old man who stabbed the 87-year-old. We still don't know much about who stabbed Thomas O'Halloran in London. But yeah, the water sewage thing. Rack sewage is happening in our UK oceans. I mean, is rack sewage even around? Antler Partlin said that on I'm a Celebrity once, but rack sewage is certainly coming to the UK. Please keep your eye out if you see a sewage system overflowing with bad stuff. All I can say on that one. It's #RackSewage. That's it for the Charlie Tolhurst show tonight, live on YouTube. We'll be back again next week for the final show in September, and a bank holiday bonanza full of great content for you to enjoy. Take care, everyone, and good night.